It's UPBOptionMillionaires.com. The closing bell has rung. We are off the lows, but still down significantly. Almost 500 Dow Jones Industrial Average points. What a dramatic move to the downside we've seen. Started really after the bell yesterday. We were only down 1% to close the day on Monday, but after the bell, everybody was eating their dinner. S&P 500 futures started to collapse down over 1.5%, and then the Chinese data came out, and we continued to the downside. And everybody was using the excuse the Chinese data is what caused this 1.5% pullback, but no, it was for no reason at all. If you followed some of my blog posts at optionmillionaires.com over the years, we've had Ebola, Syria, the debt crisis, debt downgrade, Ukraine. I said when the sell-offs don't have a name, that's when you got to worry, and we continue to sell off overnight. Had a couple bounces. You know, it's not easy to trade this market amidst the bounces here because you think we're one centrally planned rip to the upside from taking all of your put profits, your shorts, and just stomping on them. So you can look at the action, though. This has been a tradable kind of market from a chart perspective because we had this consolidation intraday, and we broke out of it just as we did on Friday. Anyone recalls the chart I put up on Twitter? Anyway, stocks started to really accelerate to the downside late in the trading session before we found a bottom, and we were saved. We hit, just look at that, 1900. Perfect round number, so we're getting a bounce here as this short-lived rally here off the lows. You can see it's the lows we hit last week. We bounced. This time, remember, Tuesday of last week, nice, strong recovery rally. But again, is it just a short-lived bounce that's going to relieve oversold conditions? Are we going to come back down, put in a double bottom? Are we going to surpass it? So I could sit here and go through charts all night, and I'm going to be like, hey, this one's lower. This one was down today. This one fell, you know. But what I'm going to do is go over some of the ETFs here. Let's look at first the IWM, the small caps. We talk about this incessantly, actually, in 2015, is holding this 120 level. Once it started to break it, it came through a couple times here in the middle of August. Started to get a little worried there, and finally when we broke to the downside, oh, the floodgates opened, folks. We broke through the 112 level, but look at us today. Held at 112. Look where we closed. Right at 112. These are trend lines I always keep on. Go back. I talked about this, I think, in my market video this morning. Dow Jones Industrial Average, the diamonds. Keep the trend lines. This is the first time I've looked at this chart in many, many moons. And if you go back, this trend line goes back in time, and you can see we came perfectly to it last week. So here we are. It's almost like, hey, look at me, I can fly. So we can see if we get some sort of stability here in the marketplace at that IWM 112 level. Also, if you look at the QQQ, I like that. Just over the 99 level. You see we're stuck in the middle. If you go back a little bit further, love the support level here. So we would watch to hold this 99 level. Otherwise, we're going to be heading back to at least this 90. This trend line here goes all the way back 5 years. Now on to the S&P 500 ETF, the spiders. You can see we're down almost 3%. What a dramatic move to the downside, but still well off the lows we saw last week. The Ebola bottom is what we're looking at. Are we going to come back down and test this level? Also something to think about. Of course, the Ebola bottom was a little more well-defined. We had a beautiful V-bottom out of it. We missed out on that V-bottom, okay? We started that V-bottom, and now we're starting to roll over against something else also to watch once we get up to this area here. It's really, as much as we love the level, certainly not the same kind of definition in the chart pattern that we would like to see. So that's something concerning here. Even the bond market wasn't immune today to the sell-off. You could see yesterday started off to the upside, continued to sell down into the close, and even today, pulling back until a late session rally brought us over long-term trend line support there for TLT. Seemingly everything was sold today, even the U.S. dollar index. It was just a really negative day. I mean, you can pull up any kind of chart here and just see a pretty nasty wick. We'll pull up a couple here. Of course, LinkedIn, I talked about this morning in the market video as far as support at the 190 resistance, breaking down, down 3%. Baidu melted lower pretty much the entire session. If you look at Baidu, though, it actually popped into positive territory for a little bit right at the open, filled the opening gap. We see that with a lot of stocks here, actually, today's trading session. A lot of stocks came up, filled the gap, and then melted lower. Look at that. It's like somebody... It's like you just picture all the stock is in a barrel and somebody just drilled a hole in that barrel and the shares are just slowly dripping out of it. What? You know, I can go through a lot of charts. Apple down almost 4.5%. What a dramatic move. That gap did not get filled. So here I am talking about a gap. We had the gap down. Maybe it'll get filled tomorrow. We'll be up 3% in this ass backwards 2015. This market in 2015 gyrated, consolidated seemingly for almost 9 months. 9 months before giving birth to one of the biggest pullbacks in recent memory. All right, UPB, I'm going to call it an afternoon. Everyone have a great evening. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow in the chat room. It's going to be interesting to see what the stock futures do overnight. Here we are. We're rolling over, folks. We hit our lows last week. We're rolling over, but we're bouncing a little bit off the lows. Let's just pull up. I'll give you a minute to minute. We're 20 minutes after the opening closing bell, and you can see the bottom we hit. We're still kind of consolidating here. Are we going to break below this, or are we going to pop up and recover some of this week's losses as we did last week? UPB, OptionMillionaires.com. Have a great evening. Goodbye.